suffering and comfort. Many years ago, my friend Wayne Dyer shared a story with me, and I tell it a little bit different, and I use it for a different purpose than him. But I want to tell you the story about the 4 philanthropists. And so many, many years ago, there was this war going on in this village. And in the village, the people that lived there lost the war, and all of the men in the village were imprisoned. And the prison was actually in the village. And so imagine all of the husbands and brothers and sons were imprisoned in the very community that they grew up in. And there were these philanthropists, there were 4 of them, that all wanted to come along and live their destiny, live their purpose, and make a difference in the world. And so one of the first philanthropists came along and found out that all these men were sleeping in very uncomfortable conditions, and there was, they were sleeping on rocks. There weren't adequate mattresses, and there wasn't great pillows or anything like that. So he said, I'm a very wealthy man, and I'd like to help these men in the prison suffer in a little bit more comfort, to give them some comfort in their suffering. And so I'd like to donate pillows and mattresses so that they could sleep comfortably. And the prison agreed, and he donated all the mattresses and the pillows so that these men could sleep in some comfort. And he felt great. He thought like he fulfilled his purpose and his destiny in life and made a difference for these men. The second philanthropist came along and found out that the men were bathing in terribly dirty water and were drinking this water and were becoming, malnourished and were dehydrated because they couldn't keep the water down. And he said, listen, I would like to donate clean water so that these men can have a little bit more comfort in their suffering. And so the prison agreed, and he donated clean water to the prison. And he felt great about the fact that he felt like I've fulfilled a purpose. I've fulfilled my destiny. I've made a difference in these people's lives. The third philanthropist found out, he lived in town. He was a farmer. And he found out these poor men that were once in the community that were now living right there in this prison were eating terrible food. It didn't taste good. It was unhealthy. It had some maggots in it from time to time. And he went to the prison and said, listen, I own a farm. I grow fresh food. I would love to be able to donate the meat and the eggs and the produce and the vegetables to these men that are in prison just to give them some more comfort. And the prison agreed and allowed them to donate the food. And this man donated the food, and now the men were eating healthy food that nourished them, that tasted good. And now he felt great about the difference that he made and felt like, I fulfilled my destiny as a person. But then the 4th philanthropist came along. And the 4th philanthropist, he was a saint. And the 4th philanthropist did something very interesting in the prison. He went and got the keys. And the gift he gave to the prisoners is he came along and he had the keys to unlock them from the prison he was in. And he unlocked it. And all the prisoners were released from the prison and no longer suffered at all. He fulfilled his destiny. He fulfilled his purpose. And I share this story with you because, in my opinion, so many people are suffering in comfort, meaning they're constantly trying to add things, even though they're suffering in their life. They do things to feel more comfort in their suffering rather than alleviate their suffering, rather than what I'd like to think that my show or myself, or what I'm going to share with you right now, I have the keys to unlock you from the prison that you live in, the prison of our minds, the prison of the emotions we don't want to feel, the prison of feeling like we're less, the prison of feeling like my life doesn't matter, the prison of not having a sense of direction, the prison of feeling invisible, the prison of always beating ourselves up about our previous sins or mistakes or setbacks or failures, the prison of being worried about what other people think about us. And so many of you and so many of us in our life stay in this prison that's in our minds. And the entire time, all we're trying to do is, man, if we could just sleep a little bit better, if I could feel a little bit better, if I could eat a little bit better, if I drove a little bit better car, if I had a little bit cooler friends, then my suffering, I'd have more comfort in my suffering. And there's this thing in our culture right now where so many of us, all we're really trying to do is have a little bit more comfort, but we're suffering. And I believe suffering comes from a place in our life where we're not pursuing our dreams. We're not pursuing our potential. We're not giving ourselves the gift of what's already within us, which is love and bliss and peace. And we're pursuing these things. We're pursuing that car, that truck, that relationship, that amount of money, that title, that prestige, that like on social, that following. so that maybe as we're suffering, we feel a little bit more comfort. There's these moments of happiness, moments of bliss, moments where we feel okay. But we live in a prison of our own making in our minds. And I believe there are keys to just simply the simple process of unlocking the key and walking out of that prison, and you never need to live in it again. And that's really what my show's all about. See, the prison is living in fear. The prison is, what are people going to think about me? The prison is living someone else's dream. So many of us right now are pursuing something or in a career that we didn't even really choose. Our parents chose it, or people thought we'd be good at it, or we studied it in college and so we're stuck in it, or we've started a business and we're running it and it was originally our dream, but we just suffer every day in this dream that's probably right now, if we checked in and started over, is no longer our dream. How many of you right now, as you're driving in your car or running on the treadmill or watching this on YouTube, relate where you're like, I am suffering. I'm in this prison that it's my making. It was my dream I no longer have. It was my parents' dream that I'm living. It's a job that I know I don't want to do. It's emotions every day I don't want to feel, but that I create this pattern of feeling these emotions. See, in our lives, we have these emotions we're going to get on a regular basis. No matter what the conditions are of our life, there's 5 or 6 emotions we're always going to go get. So if our addicted emotions are pain, anxiety, worry, suffering, anger, depression, angst, nothingness, we're going to find a way in our life in a given week, no matter what the conditions are, to get back into that prison of those emotions. Don't you? Don't we? We find a way to do it because we're addicted to that pattern of the emotions. And most people, listen to me, will live their entire life and get to the end of their life and only at the end of their life realize, I suffered in comfort and I could have ended my suffering at any point. I held the keys. God held the keys the entire time. I could have simply unlocked the gate. I could have unlocked the door and walked right out. And I believe that door, those keys, are the following things. That it's your faith. It's connecting, if you don't have one, connecting to something you believe in that's bigger than you. In my case, you all know that I'm a Christian, but whatever faith it is that you choose, that faith is a pathway. It's part of the keys of getting out of the prison. It's the keys of getting out of the prison. Part of the keys is finding a dream that's our current dream, not our past dream, not our parents' dream, not our friend's dream, but our dream right now. Ask yourself a question, check in. Am I now living in a prison of my own creation? It was a job I chose I don't want anymore. It's a degree I'm pursuing I'm not interested in. It's a business I started that now that I've done it, it's not for me, but I'm still in it and I'm suffering in it. But I get a little bit more comfort with a little bit more money. I go to a concert. I've got good friends. Whatever the thing is you do, I get a good bottle of wine on the weekend. Whatever you do, you smoke weed, whatever your thing is, all you're doing is trying to just be a little bit more comfortable and you're suffering. I believe the key out of that prison is to pursue something that's your purpose and your passion and your calling and that your heart tells you to do. I also believe it's pursuing something that takes advantage of your natural skills and abilities. The prison can be what other people think about us. The prison can also be oftentimes holding our past failures and mistakes like a weapon, almost like most of us hold this gun to our head regularly and we remind ourselves of our mistakes, of our sins, of our past, and we believe those things disqualify us. I believe the other way out of that prison is to accept your worth leaving the prison, to accept you weren't born to be in that prison. I believe that. To chase your purpose and your dreams, to live your life on your own terms. See, you hold the keys to this. And it's almost like this. In life, Wayne said this to me one time. In life, life is like this massive 100-room mansion with all these experiences and things we could be seeing and doing and trying and learning and expanding. And many of these things may not even be a business. It might just be a hobby. It might be a pursuit. It might be an interest. It might be a curiosity of yours. These are the pathways, curiosity and chasing that curiosity and learning something new and trying new things and experiencing something different, giving everything. See, total freedom in life, Total freedom being out of the prison is a total commitment to something. People think, well, if I get into a totally committed relationship, I lose my freedom. Nothing could be further from the truth. Total commitment gives you freedom. Well, if I get totally committed to my business, man, I'm going to lose the freedom. Not true. Total commitment is the keys out of the prison. Half commitments, halfway committed to a relationship, halfway committed to a business, halfway loving what you do. That's the prison. That's the lack of freedom. Total freedom is actually total commitment, because once you've totally committed, now you're free to create. Now the options are whatever you want them to be in your life. And so I'm a huge believer that these keys, those are the pathways out of the prison in our minds. Those are the prisons out of our life. See, Wayne said to me, it's like life is like this 100-room mansion. And we're born into it, and we get into this, we've chose this one career or this one relationship, and we spend the majority of our life in that one room in a 100-room mansion. Think about that for a minute. All the different experiences, things you could be learning, seeing, and doing in your life. But you spend almost every day, most of us, in the same room, in the same life, in the same mansion of life, with the same people doing the same things, suffering, and just a little bit more comfort. And you can dress that room up all you want. You can dress it up all you want. You can have the best blankets, the best food, the best drinks, but you're still suffering. You can leave that room anytime you want. There's hundreds of other rooms. In fact, there's hundreds of other mansions that have hundreds of other rooms all over the world. There's a big world for you to experience. My challenge for you today, and that pathway out of there, my challenge for you today is to take the keys right now. And take those keys and open the door and at least mentally step out for a minute and say, I can end my suffering by pursuing my passion, by giving myself the gift of my faith, by giving myself the gift of my happiness and my bliss, by only being around people who love me and believe in me and treat me the way I'm worthy of being treated. I'm going to begin to treat myself the way I'm worthy of being treated. I'm going to regularly audit my life and take a look at what my dream is now, not what my dream was when I was 18 or 13 or 25 or whatever your age was. At some point, what's your dream now? If you could dream again now, if you could have the emotions you wanted now, if you could pursue your purpose now, what would it be? Those are the keys out of your prison. You were not born to suffer in comfort. You were born to do something great with your life. You were born to leave this prison. You were born to do something awesome, to contribute to the lives of other people. And your past does not disqualify you. And just because you've been in this prison or in this one room, in this 100-room mansion, and that one mansion does not mean that you need to live there the rest of your life. At any point, you can make a decision to step right out of that place and begin to create again. And by the way, just the visual picture of stepping out right now, if you gave yourself this gift, I'm going to step out. I'm going to begin to create. I'm going to begin to learn. I'm going to begin to grow. I'm going to begin to pursue my passion. I'm not going to begin to just do the same things that cause me to have a little bit more comfort in my suffering. I want to live blissfully. I want to live greatly. I want to do something awesome with my life. I want to make my dreams come true. At any point, you're one decision away from doing that. And today, I just want to simply tell you that I believe my content, my podcast, the pursuit of your potential and your dreams, and you being that fourth philanthropist for you. You be that philanthropist for you. You be that saint for you. And those pathways, again, are your faith, are your purpose, are your dreams, is your courage to change your life, is your courage to say, I'm unlocking the keys. I'm stepping out a new person. And maybe it's the same career. Maybe it's the same career, but it's a different version of you doing it. It's a more positive, optimistic, confident you doing it. That the suffering isn't the career. The suffering isn't the business. It's the person in the business. It's the person who every day thinks, I've got to worry and be frustrated and be angry and be concerned, and I've got to suffer in order to make this work. There's a big difference between pain and suffering. Stay with me. Pain is mandatory in getting somewhere in life. Pain is a primer. Pain teaches us. Pain is temporary. All pain is temporary. You can survive temporary pain. On the other side of that pain, you meet another version of yourself. I want to be very clear about that. I'm not going to tell you that pursuing your dream, pursuing your life, and life in general doesn't involve pain, because it does. And there's nothing wrong with that. We learn from our pain, and it's temporary. Suffering, however, is optional. Suffering is different than pain. Suffering is living in that prison in your mind. Suffering is being with someone that doesn't love you and treat you the right way. Suffering is chasing a dream that's no longer your dream. Suffering is chasing no dream and building someone else's dream at a job when that's not what you want. Suffering is not pursuing your interest and your curiosities and your hobbies. Suffering is not being connected to your faith. Those are all things we choose. So pain, that's part of life. That's almost mandatory to pursuing something great. Pain is what makes pleasure feel so good. There's nothing wrong with having pain in our lives, because when we get pleasure, it feels 1,000 times better. That contrast, that duality, that dichotomy is one of the beautiful things of life. So pain is going to be there, but suffering is of our choosing. And so many people choose to keep suffering in more and more comfort. And my challenge to you today is to no longer do that and to pursue your dreams, to pursue your potential, to unlock the keys of the prison you've been living in and start to live freely again. Hey, it's Ed Mylett. I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I would ask you to please subscribe to the show. If you just click the subscribe button here, I would really appreciate it. It helps the show grow so we can get even more successful guests on the program to help you. At the same time, if you're subscribed, you're going to get access to the programs before anybody else in the world gets access to them. So if you would, click subscribe right here. Thanks so much.
See, when you were born, let me ask you a question. The doctor slapped you on the ass, make sure you're okay, didn't he, right? Then he sat you probably on your mama's chest or put you in the nursery. I doubt when he handed me your mom, he goes, hey, here's one of the average ones. Mediocre kid you got there. Congratulations. See, you were made to do something great with your life, weren't you? And you've always known it. There's always been this little voice in your head since you were a little boy or a little girl. You've always known there was something special about you. Those of us that have faith in the room, we know we were made as a masterpiece. We know the Lord looks at us like we can do anything with our lives through him, don't we? Is that right? You weren't born to be average. You weren't born to have a mediocre existence on this earth. You were born to do something great, and that's why you're in this room. It's by no mistake that you've always had those thoughts, that intuition, that aspiration, and you find yourself in this room at this time today. So if this is the worst talk you ever heard, you heard from Ted Mylett. But if it's the best talk you ever heard, give Ed Mylett a little credit. Is that fair? Yes? And so do you feel the energy in here, by the way? Because see, the difference between maxing out 10x in your life has a lot to do with energy. There's a winning energy, right? People respond to what they feel more than what they hear. In fact, as I'm speaking right now, you already feel different the first 3 minutes of this, don't you? And the reason is you can feel that I mean what I'm saying. You can feel the transfer of energy. Let me ask you a question. What do you make people feel? And the more you become conscious of what you're making people feel, not what you say, not their opinion of you, but what they feel when they're around you, it's going to make all the difference in the world of whether or not you're going to influence them to change their lives or participate with you in business, your company, etc. Do you hear me on that? Say yes. Because the day he slapped you on that ass, a race started. Listen to me. A race began. And it's a race that started that first day when you were born to the last day of your life. And that race is to finally reach the ultimate version of you. You're chasing down the person you were born to be, that you were destined to be. And since that day started, the world, the people around you, are trying to get you to conform to average. They're trying to get you off that track to finally meet your twin someday, the best possible version of you. Every single day has to be a pursuit to get better, to improve, to grow, to stretch, because you are ultimately chasing the destiny version of you. Do you hear me on that? Say yes. So every decision you make in business, every call you have, whether you go to the gym or not, you need to put it through this paradigm, through this barometer. Does this decision, does this relationship I'm in, does this choice I'm making right now put me closer to becoming that man or woman or further away? Listen, you got to get a little bit more intense about your life, about your business. You got to stop being so dadgum casual. You got to get in the game. If you're going to play the game, let's play to win it. Let's play to max it out. Let's play to 10x it. Right or wrong, right? I want you shaking. I want you feeling it. I want your intensity level to go up. Not in this room, but when you leave this room, you're focused on more energy, more intensity, more focus. Because these people you see speaking here, they're not smarter than you. We're not better than you. I don't like when we get up here, I'm rich. You know what? Who cares if I'm rich? I care whether you're rich. I want you to live richly. And I can tell you, I don't like it sometimes when we come to events like this because you always see the after. If this was a weight loss ad, we're all ripped up here. The power of the weight loss ad is you see the fat lady, then she's the skinny lady, right? You don't see the before, you're only seeing afters here. The before with me is an introverted, shy guy, insecure guy, low self-esteem, afraid of public speaking. That's the before me, a broke me. And I'm not going to get into the details of that, but I want that to give you hope because it's decisions we make to chase that best version of us every second, every day, that every day alters the direction of the course of our lives. We've all made decisions that we regret. That decision took me off course. That decision put me further away of being the best life I could have, the best version of me. When you were a little girl or a little boy, there was somebody who knew you were special. It was your grandma, your uncle, a coach, a teacher. There's been one person in your life, hasn't there? They're the one who knew you were special. There's always one. If you're blessed in life, you may have 2 or 3 of those people. Just picture their face for a second. Who was that person that when you were a little girl or a little boy, they just looked at you a little different? They just knew you were special. They knew you were great. They knew you could do something great with your life. See, I think the key to being great in business is being that person in other people's lives. I don't believe in faking it till you make it. And you can listen to all my podcasts and know how broke I went. But I'm going to prove to you how crazy entrepreneurs are. Because you know what entrepreneurship is, right? It's the greatest self-discovery process in the history of mankind. Isn't it? You learn more about yourself, what you don't know, your resiliency, how tough you are, what your weaknesses are by being an entrepreneur. It's probably the greatest self-discovery program in the history of the world. It's also this. It's the greatest self-improvement program with the highest compensation package possibly attached to it too. That's what entrepreneurism is, a self-improvement program with massive compensation package attached to it. And that's why too many of you are too focused on growing your company and not focused enough on growing you, because your company will never, ever exceed your identity or your vision for it. You got to grow you, because what will happen when it starts to grow, you'll start making unconscious mistakes to shrink it, making bad calls, getting weak, getting lazy, making mistakes. You're all nodding because you've all done it, because at some point your business got ahead of you. Far too many of you in your life are obsessed with what cab driver number 2 and bouncer number 1 think about what you're doing instead of the lead characters. You're obsessed with what other people think about you. The thing that's going to kill your dream is your addiction to other people's approval. And cab driver number 2, he ain't going to approve of what you're doing. And at the end of your damn life, he's not going to show up in any of the important chapters. Yet you give him all this power all the time. Stop giving people power who aren't in your book. Do your life for the leading characters. You, your spouse, your children, your parents, your legacy. They're the lead characters in the story of you, of your life. And the more you focus on them. And I know that many of them are the very ones giving you a hard time. They're the very ones telling you, you can't make it, you should quit, you should give in. Let me tell you, as somebody who experienced that, who's now written a pretty damn good book, they are thrilled with the book. And they knew you were going to write it all the time someday. But you get focused on the lead character. Here's the good news. A leading character can decide to live a new script at any point she wants. She walked in here one character, and she says, you know what? I am the lead character. This is some stupid script my parents gave me, or a script my boss gave me, or a script someone else gave me, or my husband gave me. You know what? Screw that. I'm the new leading character. This woman's more beautiful, more confident, more influential, more resilient, more evangelical. This woman's just a little stronger. And you leave here in the break, and you just feel different. You decide, I'm a new character. I'm a new leading character in the book of my life. Because the more you decide to take control of the narrative, of the script of your life, and you live your dream, the more likely at the end of your life, you're going to meet that dude. You're going to meet that woman. See, at the end of my life, because I am a person of faith, the Lord's going to go, hey, hopefully he goes, well done, good and faithful servant. And I have this other little hallucination. He's going to go, hey, by the way, this guy over here, this is the man you could have been. This is the person you were born to be. All those choices you made, if you made them all, you got the right place, this is who you could have become. This would have been your dreams. This is where you would have gone, what you would have seen, who you would have helped, what you would have changed. This would have been your book. Meet him. My dream in my life is that when I meet that person, we're not total strangers. You don't want to get to the end of your life, and that character is a total stranger to you. I don't care if you have faith or not. You know damn well there's going to be a funeral for you someday. And at that funeral, there's going to be a sense and a spirit of what you could have become. The woman, the man you could have become. And every day those decisions you're making to max out your life are chasing that person. See, you know what I want at the end of my life when I meet him? Watch how I pull this together. I want to be identical twins. I want to be identical twins. I want you to be identical twins. Ted and Ed are going to meet each other someday, and I'm going to say, hey, man, good to see you. Been riding with you for quite a while. Been chasing you, man. He's going to go, I've been watching you. You're exactly like me, man. We're identical twins. You maxed out your damn life. Congratulations.
So today's topic, let's get into it, are secrets. I've been asked, Ed, what's a secret that we don't hear anywhere else that can help me achieve my vision and my dreams for my life? Because there's all these check mark things you'll hear on podcasts or social media that are wonderful tactics. But Ed, do you have something you could share with us that's almost like a secret of yours that no one else covers? And so I'm going to do that with you today. See, one of the things I'm a big believer in is that you must touch your dreams before you have them in order to make them a reality. You have to touch them. You have to become in proximity to them. You have to become familiar with them. See, in life, we will never exceed what we believe we're worth or we deserve. We'll never get more than we believe we deserve. We will also never acquire or be somewhere we don't believe we belong. And if you're like me, I was raised where when I would see affluent or rich people in their homes or their mansions or their nice cars, or even a nice restaurant, heck, even a nice hotel, I don't know really why it was felt in my family that way, but I always had this sense, we don't belong there. We don't belong there. And then even when I would see super happy families, because many of you know that I grew up with an alcoholic father who eventually got sober, but I remember as a little boy, sometimes wishing I was in another family because they seemed happy and joyous. And I knew the strife and anxiety and tension that was going on in my home. And I remember thinking even as a little boy, I really don't belong in those happy houses. And I certainly don't belong in those rich hotels or mansions. You'll never end up anywhere you don't believe you belong. And so what I had to do, and I think you're going to need to do, and I think this will be special for you today, is you have to begin to condition your brain and condition your spirit into believing you belong in these places. So I want you to write this down. Touch your dreams. It's so important that you touch your dreams because what that does in your life, think about it this way. Think of someone who's a professional athlete right now. Pick anybody that you admire, LeBron James or, Aaron Judge in baseball, or a great golfer like Brooks Koepka, whoever it might be. Pick the sport. One of the things they had the benefit of is playing that sport as a young boy, or Serena Williams in tennis, right? Or as a young girl. And what happens is they become familiar in those environments. And so as they go through the ranks and climb and acquire more and more talents and skills, they believe they belong there because they've been on a tennis court 1,000 times. They've been on a golf course 1,000 times. They've been on a baseball diamond 1,000 times or a basketball court. So they didn't have to worry about whether they belonged or whether they touched the dream. They touched every day as they caught a ball, hit it, threw it, dunked it, right? Hit a driver. So they actually, over time, spent time in their dream. And as they acquired more talents and skills, it naturally perpetuated them. But most of us, the career we're in, or the mansion we want to get to, or the home we want, or the relationship we want, or the emotions we want to feel, we haven't had the benefit of spending time in those environments. And because we haven't had any time in those environments, even if we acquire the skills and the talents and the opportunities to get there, if we don't believe we belong there, or we're not familiar with it, we don't end up there. And so what I had to do, and I started doing it pretty young, is I had to begin to condition myself to believe I belonged there by touching my dreams. And so I'm going to talk to you about a couple different strategies on this that I think are a very, very big deal. See, your mind gravitates towards what it's most familiar with. So if it's most familiar with your current environment all the time, it's going to continue to gravitate and attract that environment because you're vibrating at that frequency. It's your most dominant thought. It's your most common circumstance. And so if you don't do anything to shake that up, to shake the visual picture of your life, what you're touching, feeling, smelling, you end up just sort of acquiring skills and you never move out of that environment and get to the dream. So I knew I had to start touching my dreams. And what I did is I would do those. I had to create strategies, and I recommend you do. Some of them cost money and some of them are completely free. So I know some of your listeners going to listen, I have no money. You don't understand my situation. I'm in debt. I can't do a few of the things you're going to recommend. Don't worry. I'm going to get to some things for you in a minute as well. And then those of you on a limited budget like me, I'm going to talk about spending just a little bit. Okay, just a little bit. Nothing I'm going to talk about is mega expensive. Okay. So what I did was I was coming up in business. I was used to, I guess, what you would probably call a lower middle class lifestyle. Okay. And I would see, like I said, these mansions and hotels and cars and happiness even, and think I didn't belong there. And I became very uncomfortable even thinking about those environments. So I had to start putting myself in those environments on very short-term basis. So what I would do is I was in the sales business. I would create incentives with myself. Stay with me. This is very important in your life. I would create incentives with myself where I would say, hey, okay, Ed, if you make 10 sales this month, whatever it was, 10 sales, or you make $5,000, or you make $10,000, or you do X or Y, if you do this at the end of the month, you're going to take a 1-day break and you're going to go touch your dream. So for example, I lived in Southern California. There was a Ritz-Carlton hotel in Laguna Beach, Dana Point, California. And I used to set these contests up. I couldn't afford to live at the Ritz-Carlton or where those people go. But what I would do is I said, okay, I'm making $7,000 a month. If this month I make 12 sales and I make an extra $2,000 back in that time, I'm going to take that extra $300 and I'm going to go spend one night on Saturday night at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. I would leave my environment. My wife and I would get in our car. We would drive down to the Ritz-Carlton. And I remember the first time I got there, not knowing how you even tip the valet and not even wanting to park my car and, bring my car to the front of the hotel because it was a Honda CRX. But I did. And I rolled up to the Ritz-Carlton in my Honda CRX and the valet, I didn't know, do you tip them now? Do you tip them when you come back? So I just tipped them both. I gave him the tip. And I remember the first time I watched my wife get out of the car and I went to grab my bag. He said, no, Mr. Mylett, we've got your bag. No one had ever done that for me before. It was very awkward for me. I was afraid they were going to take my bag. And then I remember we walked into the lobby and I saw this marble on the floor and the chandelier. And I'm like, my gosh, it was overwhelming. And then checking in, giving them my credit card and hoping I had enough of my credit card for the incidentals on top of the room. And the first time it was a little bit awkward. We stayed there and we were laying out the pool with all these very wealthy people. And we had dinner that night, a decent bottle of wine. And during the daytime, I went and played golf. And I'll talk about that in a minute. My wife went and got a massage. And the whole thing cost me, I don't know, at that time, like $700-800, which was a lot of money to me. But I touched my dream. And then I went back and it's just different. You drove back. My ideas, my thinking, my vibrational frequency was just slightly different. And I remember thinking, I want to get back there. I can't live where they live, but I can't wait to get back there. And then the next month I said, if I do X or Y, we'll go back for one night, just one night. We're just going to taste it, just a bite. I can't eat the whole steak. I can't afford that. I certainly can't have the whole meal. I certainly can't have the rest, but I can have a bite of my dream. And that's what I'm encouraging you to. I had a bite of my dream. And I'll give you other strategies in a minute that aren't anywhere near that expensive. But I had a bite and it tasted good. And the next month I said, if I do 6 or 8 more of these sales, I'm going to go there and we're going to do it. And I didn't do it. And so I didn't go because I didn't want to train my brain that we just go. I had to earn it. I had to do something exceptional to get the reward. I did not want to do it so there were many times I set up these contests myself. I didn't hit them. We didn't go. I would ask my wife, start shopping for deals, look for discounts, look for places to go that are expensive, but we can get on the cheap. But then I remember about 4 months later, I hit my number again and we went down there again. Same routine, except this time I kind of knew how to handle the valet. And when I walked in, it's a little bit different. Still a little bit awkward, a little uncomfortable. But now laying out at the pool, I kind of knew where the towels were. I knew what drink to get. My wife knew where the spa was. We didn't have to ask. I knew where the golf course was. And by the way, while I was playing golf, I had a mentor tell me, Ed, rich men play golf. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't even like golf. It's 5-6 hours. It's boring. I'm not any good. I'm a baseball player. I want some action. Ed, rich men play golf. And I figured out what that really meant. That was a chance for me to get on a golf course with 3 or 4 other guys who were already living like I wanted to live. And I get to spend 4 or 5 hours with these people, even if I didn't know them. Like, how'd they walk? How'd they talk? How'd they think? What are their problems? What kind of vocabulary do they use? So I would go play golf and she would go to the spa. And then we'd have that dinner. And at the dinner, we would dream about what our life would look like and where we were going to go. And I'd say, babe, someday we'll live down here. You know, that Ritz Cove that's connected, that community, that's where we're going to live someday, right down here in Laguna Beach. There's a community right next to it. And that's a little bit more familiar. And then about 4 months after that, we did it again. Except this time, I remember walking in there going, I kind of feel like I belong here. And then I snuck into the gated community and we just drove around. I couldn't get past the guard gate the first time. Then I found a way in. We just walked around and drove around and looked at the homes. And what was happening is I was just touching my dream and becoming more familiar with it.
And as I did this over time, I started to believe I belonged there. And as I was acquiring more skills, more abilities, more opportunities, this started to happen as well because I belonged there. I was conditioning myself. I was giving myself a mental rehearsal of what my potential life would look like. And then I remember one time I said, hey, if I hit my numbers this month, let's go out to the desert, to Palm Springs area, La Quinta, California. Let's go out to the La Quinta Resort. We went out to the La Quinta Resort. I'll never forget it. Same routine. I played golf. She went to the massage. We sat around the pool. Do you know to this day that my two main homes are in Laguna Beach and La Quinta, California? Do you think that's by coincidence? See, over time of touching my dream and getting a bite of it, I became familiar with it. Your mind moves towards what you're most familiar with, what you gravitate towards. Now, I think you need to set up incentives to do it. But I'm going to tell you, this changed my life. Now, let's step back. You say, Ed, I don't have the money to do that. Great. Here's what I want you to do. Whatever your dream is, let's say your dream is something material. Go to a watch store and try on those watches once a month. Go do that. Go to the suit place and put the suits on, but don't buy them. Rent a car for a day. Rent a Lambo for a day. Rent a Rolls Royce for a day. Something for a day. I'm going to give you stuff in a minute that costs nothing. Just so you know, I'm going from the expensive thing to the nothing thing. Start to touch your dream. Those of you that are doing a little bit better, one time, save up for a year, rent a jet. Instead of taking, by the way, this is the thing I would not do. Is what I see people with success doing all the time. They take these long vacations. I've never taken a long vacation. I would take 1 and 2 day vacations, Cabo, Laguna Beach, wherever, 1 and 2 day vacations. Why? I didn't want to lose the momentum in my business. But what would happen, listen to me, when I would get away for a day or two, my environment dictated my thinking. When I got into these other environments, that's when I would dream bigger. That's when I think about my new vision, where I was going, what I wanted to do, what my idea was, what my plan was. People always say, I have a hard time getting my plan together. That's because you're in the same environment. Get out of your environment. Go somewhere for a day or two. And by the way, those of you that are trying to climb to success, what are you doing taking 1 and 2 and 3 week-long vacations ever? I'm 52 years old. You know how many week-long vacations I've taken in my lifetime? Less than I can count on both hands. Maybe less than I can count on one hand. I don't take week and 2 weeks away. My businesses need me. But I've taken a lot of 1 and 2 days, 3 days, because it's the same juice. I can get the same juice without wringing out the dang orange all the way. Coming back and there's all these problems, right? So don't take long breaks. You're trying to climb to the top. Let me just let you in on it. Those of us that have climbed to the top, there weren't long vacations. I know you see people on Instagram and they're European trip. I don't even know how these people got their money. I don't get all that. That's something you do after you're really wealthy. And even after I got really wealthy, I just have no stomach for it. I don't like being away. I love business. I love my business. I love my life. I live on vacation now. You want to build a great life? Build and have homes where everybody else vacations someday. And the way you do that is go touch those dreams one bite at a time every couple months. If you gave yourself the gift a couple times a month, a couple times a year, 3 times a year, 6 times a year of touching your dream, renting the car, renting the house, right? For a week, for a day, going to the hotel your dream will think, you'll meet people, you'll vibrate differently. Your big thinking comes out. You have a very difficult time changing your thinking in the same environment. It's very difficult to do. So what happened was I was able to change my environment for just 24 or 48 hours. And that's where I would do my big dreaming, my big thinking, my big strategizing. Plus I'm becoming familiar with the dream. Plus I'm moving towards it. Plus I believe I belong there. And your mind moves towards what it's most familiar with. So now I'm becoming a little bit more familiar with this stuff. You starting to get this? Now you say, Ed, my dream's not material at all. I get it. Most of mine aren't either. So what if once a month or once a quarter, let's say your dream is to serve in your church. Have you ever just taken a Wednesday off on a vacation day and served at your church, your mosque, your temple, or your synagogue? Do you know what that would do for your spirit and your soul to touch that dream? Have you ever just taken a day off and spent it doing something that's your dream? Just the day off, you just unplug. You just sit on the beach, right? If your dream is service, what if you took a day and served at a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen, right? Or anywhere like that, or a women's shelter, whatever it might be, right? Or you want to get involved in helping people with cancer, or there's a charity or something you want to get behind. Take a day and touch that dream. It costs nothing. If you have no money, but it's material, Drive into the nice neighborhoods, get out and walk around, go to open houses, touch these things. If it's you wish you could be a trainer full time, there's a career you want to do, but you got to pay the bills the other day. Take one day and go do that career. Ask someone if you can, for one day, get mentored by them. Follow them around the gym if that's what you want to do. Follow them around the lab. Follow them around the business office. Touch your dream. Now, there's these things in my life have changed me. Why? There's also proximity to power. There's proximity to being around power. And power is your dream. Power is the people who have those dreams. Those people have the answers, the thoughts, the vocabulary, the vibrational frequency, the relationships. I remember watching these guys playing golf, and just how they walked was different than me. What they talked about was different than me. And not all of them had it, but some of them did. I remember one of the first times we were laying out at the pool going, wow, people just lay like this and relax? I've never done this in my damn life. I wonder if there's some correlation between this relaxation and being successful. And so, do you understand what I'm telling you? That an element that's missing in your life, listen to me, is you touching your dream. And then here's the free one of all of them. Mental rehearsal, just visualization of the dream. Giving yourself the gift of picturing yourself driving that car, picturing yourself in that church, picturing yourself with that body, picturing yourself in that relationship, picturing yourself with that emotion. Mental rehearsal causes you to believe you belong in the dream. Do you mentally rehearse? How often do you mentally rehearse? Because what's really happening is your visual sphere, your auditory sphere, your kinesthetic sphere, the things you touch on a regular basis, hear and see, are mentally rehearsing the rest of your life for you. So at some point, you have to take control of that, override it, and actually force yourself to mentally rehearse the things you want in your life. That's a form of touching your dream. It's the lowest vibrational frequency is picturing it, but it's better than not. And if you do it enough times, because dreaming is free, you could do this daily and repeat it. And if you stack up that enough times, it can be more powerful than touching it for one day a quarter. But imagine if you combine the two, the mental rehearsal in your life of whatever the emotion, the dream, the car, the house, the relationship, the service, the contribution, the memory, the repetitious mental rehearsal. And then once or twice a year, 4 or 5 times a year, you go touch your dream on a budget. Or even not on a budget, you drive the neighborhood, you try on the watch, you try on the shoes, listen to me, these things matter. You put yourself in these environments. You go have dinner at, a lot of people go, well, we go out to dinner every single week, once a week. Let's just say you do that. Okay. What if you just went once a month, but you went to the place you'd like to go the rest of your life? So you saved the money from those 3 meals that you don't go. And on the 4th one, you go to the place you'd like to be and get to touch the dream. You starting to see what I'm saying? Some of you that are a little bit further along, you'll give yourself a gift. You got a couple bucks, have a night where you don't go out and you have a chef come cook for you. And I know that some of these things are things that many of you are nowhere near ready to do. Remember what I just said. I started out by driving the neighborhoods for free, just getting into the neighborhood. I couldn't even get into the houses. I couldn't even get through the gates. And then that graduated to one night at a hotel near those neighborhoods. But where it really started was the mental rehearsal. Ed Mylett had to convince himself he belonged in his dreams. Ed Mylett had to become familiar with these dreams by touching them mentally, physically, and actually auditory as well. I remember the first time when we would go to the Ritz-Carlton, we would always get the cheap garden room. And I remember about 2 years into doing it, I go, we're going to get the ocean front. And I'll never forget the first time when I woke up and I could hear the waves crashing. Actually, I went to sleep. Frankly, the waves were so foreign to me that I had a hard time sleeping with the noise. But I remember waking up and I opened the door on our balcony. This is 2 years into doing this. I opened the door on our balcony and I went, oh, wow, this is a different morning. You wake up here in the ocean waves and feeling that breeze and that smell of the salt water. I belong here. I want this. And it incentivized me to work 1,000 times harder had I not experienced it. Somehow this starts to change our desire level as well. And so you start mixing all this together, you got a little bit of a recipe. So let me ask you today, doesn't cost you anything to dream and mentally rehearse. Are you willing to do that? Number one, whatever it is, material or not material. Number two, are you willing to start setting up some incentives with yourself or just start saving for that once a quarter, once a month, twice a year experience for a day or two where you touch your dream? Third, if it's service oriented, are you willing to take off a day, a quarter, and go serve in your church or your synagogue or your temple, whatever it might be? Are you willing to go try these things on? Maybe rent a car for a day? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to touch your dream to some extent? You have to bite the steak before you can eat the whole thing. And this is an element not talked about. Now, if you have the opportunity, you acquire the talents and the skills, I'm telling you, become an unstoppable force. So my challenge to you today is, are you willing to make any of these adjustments to your life game? Worst case scenario, drive your car somewhere, it's free, and walk around where your dream exists. Walk where it exists. Maybe your dream's to live in New York City, right? You live in the suburbs of New Jersey. Get in your dadgum car or take a cab and get over there and just walk around and touch it, see it, smell it. And what starts to happen is you build something called sensory acuity. And this sensory acuity makes your senses more acute. And then in your everyday life, you begin to see people, places, and things that deliver on that dream that you're now familiar with. Here's the truth. Last thing I'll tell you. If you continue to live unfamiliar with your dream, you will die unfamiliar with it. But if you begin to familiarize yourself with your dream, with mental rehearsal or physical touch, or the actual experience of doing it on short-term basis, there's a high probability that when you are at the end of your life, you will have lived that dream. Why is it so important to achieve your dreams? Because your dreams are not a joke. Your dreams are not a hallucination. See, I believe God gives you your dreams as a preview as to what's possible in your life. These are the possibilities. That's why these dreams are in your heart. This is what's possible for you. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't even mean it's probable. Here's what's possible. And what I believe is you take possibility to probability by repetition, mental rehearsal, and conditioning. All I did is have dreams of what was possible. The difference with me, I believe, now that I'm 52 years old on the other side of it, obviously was all the hard work. But you know what spurred the hard work? Belief I belonged there. At some point, if you don't believe you belong there, you stop catching those ground balls. You stop hitting those home runs. You stop swinging those golf clubs in practice. At some point, you got to believe you belong there to make those phone calls, eat the right diet, make the contacts, whatever that thing is in your life. You have to have the desire level and the hard work. And I believe the hard work only long-term comes from believing you belong there. And when your entire environment and all the people around you on a daily basis don't reinforce that and don't condition it, you must override it in short-term bites. But if you do, these things that God's given you as possibilities of your life become probabilities. And then you become what I call an impossibility achiever. And in my life, I feel like I've become an impossibility achiever. What most people think's impossible, I got the recipe for. I start envisioning it, then I start touching it, then I start experiencing it, then I start believing I belong there, then I become familiar with it, and then I have it. That's the deal.
You are one decision away from changing your life. And you have to accept that. You're one new meeting, one new relationship, one new contact, one new action, one new decision away from shifting your life from where it is right now to a totally different place. So what's the decision? You already know. I could go backstage now. There's something you've been hesitating on. There's a contact you need to make, isn't there? There's a job you need to quit. There's a relationship you need to engage in. Maybe there's a relationship you need to leave. I don't know what it is, but I know there's a decision that you need to make to take you to the next level, just like I know that's true for me. Because decisions shape our destiny when they're backed up by some massive ass action. Okay, but you can't take the action if you don't decide. Everyone say yes. People avoid being desperate. Think of the fact they come here tonight and they're down. They're not where they want to be financially. Their relationships aren't what they want. Maybe they're in a desperate place, and you might think that's a negative thing. But when you're in a desperate place, you take the best actions. Desperation is a great place to be. Those of you that are achieving, one of the reasons the achievement is slowed down is you've allowed yourself to feel less desperate. When you were broke and starting your business, or when you were brand new in your relationship and you were desperate to get her to love you or desperate to get him to love you, you took massive big action. How many of you are moms in the room? Raise your hand. You moms, if you woke up tomorrow morning and your baby wasn't in their bed, would you be desperate right away, yes or no? Big time desperation. You wouldn't be thinking about what you need to do. You'd be acting, wouldn't you? You'd immediately make the decision, you'd take massive action, you'd search the house, you'd go into the street. Would you worry if your makeup was on right? How you looked, what people thought about you? You wouldn't, would you? Have to have the perfect plan to go find your baby that's missing. You wouldn't need any of that because you were desperate. See, when you remove desperation, all this bullshit creeps into your life where you think you have to have the perfect plan and look the perfect way and have the perfect thoughts and be all zen and perfect. What you need is to be desperate. What you need is to get after it. And I want you to get desperate to make that decision. Why? Because our obsessions become our possessions. What you obsess about most regularly, you will eventually possess in your life. The challenge for most people, sisters and brothers, is that we obsess on the things we're fearful of, what we don't have, what we're worried about. And then we end up possessing those things over and over again rather than programming ourselves to become obsessed with what we want, what our dreams are, what we believe we deserve. When we become obsessed about those things, long term, we end up possessing those things. Can I get an amen for that? Yes? Yeah, most of us don't replace the external parts of our lives because those things happen naturally without thought. The external results of our life, in order to replace ourselves with the next best version, requires intention, requires obsession, requires desperation. Everyone with me on that, say yes. So it's not unnatural to change. Your friends that think you're crazy to have started your business or come to a seminar or spend money you don't have, they're the crazy ones. It's unnatural to be the same person you are right now next year. For all of you in here, the 35-year-old you should be gone next year forever, and there should be a brand new, better 36-year-old. You 20-year-olds, there should be a better 21-year-old next year. You should constantly be replacing yourself just like your bones do, just like your lungs do, just like your cells do. It's natural to be replacing ourselves, but we're around people who aren't, so we think it's natural not to. So the way that I changed my life first is I worked on my identity. Your identity is the thoughts, concepts, and beliefs that you hold to be most true about yourself. Stay with me. Here's how it works. This is how life works. I can teach you all of the mechanics of winning, but winning is about 75% psychology, about 25% mechanics. And if you can't get the psychology part right, you can do all the actions perfectly, and you've proven this to yourself several times and still not produce the results you want. Here's why. Your identity is like a thermostat setting for your entire life. So there's a thermostat in this room. It's set the room to a temperature. Let's just say it's 75 degrees. Guess what sets the temperature for the entire room? The thermostat. This is how life works too. It's not the external things that enter our lives that dictate what our life is like. In this room, if we open the door and hot air blew in here, 90 degrees of air blew in, right? What would the thermostat do? It would regulate the room, turn the air conditioner on, and cool the room back to 75 degrees. Am I right or am I right? That's what happens in your life. You have a thermostat setting for your relationships, for your faith, for your money, for your wellness, for your body, for your spirituality, for your business. And what's happened to you over and over again is you start to get you're a 75 degree, or let's say in business, and you start to get it going, don't you? It's going better than it's ever gone before. The results are incredible. And then all of a sudden, 90 days later, you've cooled your life back down to 75 degrees again. You've had great relationships in your life, but you're 75 degree or inside. The relationship's beautiful, it's wonderful, everything's incredible. 90 days later, you've cooled it back down to 75 degrees. In your body, you had a 75 degree identity physically, and you got in shape, you started eating good, you were working out, you're a 90, 95 degree body. 90 days later, you cooled it back down to 75 again. This regulates everything in our life. So you can't get out over your skis. You can't exceed your identity long term. It'll never happen. This is why people's lives yo-yo up and down, because they always work on the external mechanics and not the internal identity of their lives. And this governs your happiness, your peace, your fitness, your money, all of it. I'm standing up here because I'm great at adjusting my thermostat setting. I believe in something called blissful dissatisfaction. There's a misnomer in the world that, man, for a lot of competitive people, drivers are like, hey, if I enjoy myself right now, I'm going to lose all my drive. I'm just going to delay my happiness. Number one problem in the world today is people say, I'm going to delay my happiness until a future time. Once I get that relationship, then I'll let myself be happy. Once I have the house, then I'll be happy. Once I have the car, then I'll be happy. Once I have the promotion, I'll be happy. Once I have a certain amount of money, then I'll be happy. The problem is you have to bring you to all those places. And people think if I let myself enjoy my life right now, I might lose my edge. The athletes I coach think that all the time. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, if you don't enjoy the victories as you go, your brain doesn't produce any dopamine, and you actually lose the desire to continue to perform. There's a direct correlation between celebrating your wins and wanting to do more of them. See, when I was broke, and I was broke longer than I've been rich, you know what I'd always do when I walk into a store? I'd never get what I wanted. I'd always check the price tag. What's it cost? What's it cost? What's it cost? What's it cost? And when you're always looking at what it costs, you never get what you want. And a lot of us do that in our lives. Every day we're repeating to ourselves, what's this costing me? The sacrifice I'm going, I don't know if I can go through anymore. And you lose what you want. You got to quit negotiating the price. Right now, make the decision that any price is worth it as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral for you to make your family proud of you, for you to make your dream happen. Stop negotiating the price. This negotiation you keep doing in your mind, is this really where I'm supposed to be? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Steals all your energy. It steals your focus. But those of you that get laser focused, that become totally immersed in your dream, that know those babies of yours, your parents, guess what? They're worth the sacrifice. Probably when you were a little one, I got 3 minutes, guys. Probably when you were a little boy or a little girl. Here's what I'll bet. There was somebody in your life at some point, I pray, that made you feel special. Maybe one. Maybe they've even passed away. Maybe it was a grandma or a grandpa or a parent. I just got chills. Or a coach or somebody that just, they made you feel special. Mine was my papa. I'm named after him. I'm Edward III. We'd ride in his van on Sundays to go get donuts, and I'd sit there, and he'd just look at me and goes, Eddie, you're the special one. And I look at him, I say, I am, Papa. He goes, you're my favorite grandson. He had 15 grandkids. He'd always tell me, you're my favorite. He probably told all of them, but I get chills right now. He made me feel special. Can you remember that person in your life and how they made you feel when you were a little boy or a little girl? You just felt something with them, didn't you? You just, man, I was born for a reason. I'm special. I'm supposed to be somebody. I'm supposed to make a difference in my life. Let me tell you something. Whoever that person was, if you were blessed to have them, listen, they were right about you. And maybe over the time of your life and your childhood and grade school and you get into the world and business doesn't work and a relationship and you forget. But I'm here to remind you tonight they were right. And what you're really after is that feeling. What you're really after is the way they made you feel is living up to it. Because at the end of our lives, I don't know whether or not you're going to live, but I know for sure you're going to die. And I don't know whether or not you're going to live before you die. Most of us are not living because we're so worried about what everybody thinks about us, or maybe what we don't feel about ourselves. Let me say something to you real clear. If you spend the rest of your life worrying about what everybody thinks about you, someday you'll never have to worry about it again, because when you die, nobody will remember you were here. Stop worrying about what these people think about you. Live your dream. Worry about the people you love. And by the way, I know some of the very people you're doing it for are the ones not supporting you. They're the ones telling you to quit. They're the ones giving you heck. Just do it anyway. I have this theory that someday when I die, and as a Christian I believe I get to meet the Lord. I don't care if you believe it's energy, Allah, I don't care. But I have this belief that when I die, He'll say, well done, good and faithful servant. But here's what I think happens. I think He introduces me to the man I was born to be, the destiny version of me. I think you get introduced to that woman someday. This is who I made you to be. This is who you could have been, man. These are the experiences, the people you could have helped, the contribution, the moments, the memory, the magic, the way you could feel about yourself. Meet him, meet her. This is who you were born to be. To me, heaven, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know if it's energy or a place you go, but heaven to me is when I meet that man, we're identical twins. I did it all. And he goes, man, I've been watching you. And I go, brother, I've been chasing you all my life. He goes, you caught me. I watched you. I'm so proud of you. You did it all, right? Hell would be meeting that person someday and you're total strangers with them. I don't want you to have that happen at the end of your life, where all these things you were capable of, all the possibilities, all the moments, all the travel, all the trips, all the help, all the contribution, none of it happens because you won't fight for your family. You won't get obsessed for what you want. You won't transfer energy to people. You won't stop negotiating the price. You won't program your reticular activating system. You won't work on your identity. All that's on the line is your dadgum life. That's all, just your life. That's all we're talking about here is just you, your precious soul, who's enough, who's got greatness in them, who can do whatever he or she ever dreamed of. If they'll just start believing it, if they'll start taking massive action, you were born to do something great with your life. You were born to do something magic in small ways, in big ways, in quiet ways. Maybe it's not going to be millions of dollars. Maybe it's going to be one person you inspire with your story, what you overcome. One kind word, one message, one moment with one person can change the world. And I know you're capable of it. And whoever made you feel special, and if there was nobody like that in your life, I apply for the position. If you're with me daily in my podcast, in my media, in my social media, I apply for the position to believe in you. Because I know how great you are. I know what you're capable of. I know this, your dream's gonna be tattered all the time. Sometimes you just gotta hold it together with hope. Sometimes you gotta hold it together with a little Velcro, right? I don't know what you gotta hold it together with, but here's what I know about you last. Listen to me. You were born to do something special with your life. You're not invisible. You're loved. You're cared for. You're cherished. You're believed in. You came here with a purpose. I don't say that to inspire you. I try to give you some tools to help you. I've got hundreds of other tools I can help you with if you follow my stuff. I'm existing in the world for the next 50 years just to serve people, just to help you, just to hopefully contribute to your life, to be a tough guy and tell you to fight, but to be your biggest advocate and your biggest believer as well. So I'm over on my time. God bless you and max out the rest of your life.
So when the water got turned off, you know what I had to do? I had to look around my life. I really had to take an inventory, not just of me, but what was around my life. And the fact of the matter was I did not have the right people in my life. I didn't have the people who believed in me. I didn't have the people who supported my vision. I didn't have people who made me want to be better in my life. I had a few, but I didn't have enough. I had too many people in my life that have just always been in my life. They always accepted me for who I was. And that acceptance, that lack of belief in me, that lack of standard got me all the way to where I couldn't even pay a water bill. I didn't even have a car, never mind electricity for a while. And so it's very dangerous. It was very dangerous for me for who I allowed just to support my limiting thinking, who I had around me. They weren't bad people. There's very few bad people. They just weren't people who were going to get me going in my life where I knew I needed to go, where I was born to go. I had read all the books on personal development. I learned about influence, kind of learned how to change my state, how to think differently. Been to a lot of the events that you go to. Why is it that so many people go to all these self-improvement, personal development, business events? They get all excited when they're there, they're ready to conquer the world. Then they get back home and life very slowly starts to drift back to normal. And that's because environment overrides almost everything in our lives. That's why. And so the reason you're so excited when you're at the event, the reason you're ready to conquer the world is the environment supports what you're doing. And so I had to start to address my environment. And environment is all the place you are, but most importantly, your environment is the people that are around you. Because write this down, number one, in our lives, the most powerful force that I'm aware of in the world is to be consistent and congruent with the expectations of our peer group. Let me say that to you again. The most powerful force on earth is we become consistent with the expectations of our peer group. You're going to get out of life what the people around you expect of you. And so I had to begin to address who were the people around me, and specifically what was the environment that I was in, because number two, proximity is power. The closer somebody is to you, the more influence they have over you. That's why your personal relationship that you're in is something that must be evaluated at all given times. And people ask me, how do I get more spouse support or partner support, boyfriend or girlfriend support? I don't know that you're always going to get more support, and I don't even know that that's needed. But one thing that's a foundation of all relationships is, does this person believe in me? Most people love us. That's one thing. If we're in a relationship, we kind of feel a level of love. But the deeper question is, do they truly believe in me? And when I started to evaluate my friends that were around me, if I asked myself, were they supporting where I wanted to go in my life? Not that they didn't love me or like me. In fact, what most of us do is we love to have people around us who accept us. We say, I want people to accept me as I am. And there's a benefit to that. There's a huge negative as well. If people are constantly accepting this version of you, there's nothing compelling you to go to the next version. There's no stimulus that says, I better change. There's no discomfort. Because these people closest to us, their proximity has influence over us. So number one thing I want you to ask yourself is, do the people around me believe in me? And if they don't, that needs to be evaluated. People say, well, then what do I do? Do I get rid of them? Well, maybe in some cases. I mean, if they're antagonistic to you, certainly. But what you have to do is begin to add people in your proximity who do believe in you or who will believe in you. And if they don't believe in you, perhaps they don't need to be eliminated from your life. But one thing you may need to do is start to reduce their proximity to you. Maybe they're not as close to you as they used to be. I've had to do that many times in my life where I've had to eliminate a few people from my life, but very few. This is so critical to you becoming successful because your environmental game is more important even than your mental game because it's what supports it. And so I want you to evaluate a few things. Do they believe in me? Number two, are they a past or future reference type friend? In other words, when you're around them, what do you find yourself talking the most about? Is it the past or the future?
I want to be around people who are constantly talking about either the present, but most importantly, the future. In other words, I want people who are present with me so that when they're with me, we're together. You know, you have those friends too who are constantly not present even though they're in your presence. We don't want that either. But if people are constantly taking me in the past frame of reference, old stories, old things, remember when, high school, college, previous date, previous vacation, previous business, remember when, constantly, you know, they're just always reminiscing. Or are they projecting me into the future? If at least 75% of your conversations aren't about the future with the people that you're around, these are not people supporting your future, they're supporting your past. They're reinforcing your past. The more we talk about something, the more we reinforce its importance in our life. And so this is a very subtle thing. And I think even as I say it, you're going, whoa, they do love me. I think they might believe in me, but man, we talk about the past all the time. Well, this is somebody who's going to reinforce that state of your life. You need to add people to your proximity who are discussing the future with you. You know, you've heard about triggers before where you can learn in personal development that, you know, you snap your fingers, you put yourself in a state, or you walk, you hear a song, it's a trigger, isn't it? You hear a song from some point in your life, it triggers a memory. Or a song you love right now that triggers you wanting to work out or move your body. So things are triggers. People are also triggers. And if there are people in your life, just by their proximity, trigger events that are prior in your life that didn't serve you. Just by being around them, they're a trigger. Humans are triggers. Do you have people that just when you see them, they trigger peace for you? They trigger joy. They trigger abundance. They trigger competing. They trigger intensity. They trigger belief. They trigger confidence. They trigger your desire to grow. Ask yourself what triggers these people are in your life. What do they trigger in you? And you begin to start to look at these things. You're going, wow, well, I have this group of friends who they accept me, but I don't know if they believe in me. Then I've got this other group of friends where they believe in me, but we're always talking about the past. And then you know what? They kind of trigger these states of sort of comfort or average in me. Who do I have that's triggering my desire to grow? Who makes me uncomfortable? Who do I have, like, I kind of clean up the house before they come over? Who do I have where I get excited when I see them because not every conversation's the same? I don't know where it's going to go. You should have those people that accept you in your life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's an important thing. But you should have these other people who really don't accept this version of you. They believe in you so greatly, so much, that they don't accept this version of you. They don't accept this performance from you. They don't accept this level of happiness, abundance, joy, performance from you because they know how much more you're capable of. Who do you have like that in your life? And the reason that that matters so deeply for us is because, and I want you to write this down, we get our standards in life. We don't always get our goals. We don't always even get what we focus on. We end up ultimately getting what our standards are. Standards dictate everything in life, and the people around us help create that standard. For example, I was at a birthday party last night, and the people sitting around me were all very fit people, and dessert came. It was birthday cake time. And I probably normally would have probably had that piece of cake. But the first three people that were asked have this standard for how they eat in their life and when their cheat days are, their cheat meals are. And all three people passed on it. And immediately, almost through peer pressure, I went, no, I'll pass too. And then my buddy goes, dude, it's okay, have a piece. And I said, no, man, it's good. That standard alters us in every little area. Now, that's an obvious example. But we're going to get our standards of wealth, our standards of faith, our standards of abundance. And the people in our proximity help set the standard based on what theirs are in their life. So the people around you, evaluate next. What are the standards they help you set in your life? The other thing we win with is energy. And so ask yourself this, is this person in my life an energy giver or an energy drainer? This is massive. So when you're talking to them, do they feed you energy? You know, there's that one number where it shows up on your phone and you're like, right? You know that conversation, that text is going to be an energy drain. This person's proximity to your life is stealing some things from you. I'm not saying you shouldn't have people in your life who you're supporting and you're helping, because we're going to talk about that next. But if the vast majority of people around you are energy neutral or energy drainers, what do you think that's doing to your environment that you're supporting yourself with? Okay? Or, on the contrary, is this someone who gives you energy, feeds your belief, makes you stronger, gives you that juice in your life? Because all of these things, these people around us, all these evaluations, they're creating our environment so that it'll support our thinking, it'll support the changes we're making, it'll support our goals. This is supported by scripture as well. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another. And so one of the obvious questions about this is, if someone is lower energy for me, or is a past reference person, or a trigger that doesn't support me, or they don't believe in me, or they only accept me as I am, if you have some of these issues, what do you do with them? I'll give you 3 things. I don't think you just eliminate people from your lives. It's not that hardcore a thing, because this is more about adding the right people than it is eliminating people, but it is reducing their proximity. And so I think with people in your life that aren't supporting you the way you want to, number one, I would recommend you be kind to them. Be kind in your conversations with them. You don't have to become mean to them or adversarial to them, and I don't even think you need to let them know this. Number 2, I think you need to be cordial. But I will tell you that you begin to become 3, which is concise. Your dialogue with them begins to be concise. Their proximity to you begins to shrink. And these are things people say, gosh, that's so difficult. Well, do you want to be happier? Do you want to win? I mean, you've already tried the other things, right? You've already started to write goals down. You're already working on yourself. You already got some habits that you're working on. Maybe this is the area. Perhaps this is the area. Those of you that have children, this is an audio or video they should be watching or listening to. Their school teachers influence them. That's their mentors. That's like what we're doing right now, right? But who really has influence over your children? Who really sculpts who they are? It's their friends, and it's their closest friends. That's why parents guard those associations so vigilantly, the good parents do, because they know the proximity of these kids around their children are going to influence ultimately who they become. Our lives begin to have a pace that's different than when we're young, but the same exact thing is true for us. These people closest to us dictate who we become. It's not our mentors like our school teachers. They have some influence. I have influence, hopefully with you, but not the same as the people that you're texting with when you're done listening to this. Not the same as who you're having dinner with tonight. Not the same as who you have lunch, who you're around at work, who you're around in the evening, who you socialize with, right? They have the greatest form of influence over you, because in your life, you're trying to build this library of memories, aren't you? And in your mind right now, these memories are going to be different. They're different places, different experiences, different things, right? Different moments, different achievements, different breakthroughs, different feelings. With the same people? With the same people. With the same people, you are likely to build the same types of memories over and over again. So if you love your life right now, if everything in your life is rich, and you don't want it to change, and you don't want it to grow, and you'd like to keep repeating these memories you're getting now, well then by all means keep these people very close to you and add people as you go. But if there's this party that's, I want to change the memories, I don't want the next 10 years of my life, the feelings, the experiences, the accomplishments, the places I see, moments I have. So all I'm asking you to do today is do an audit on your environment. I want you to audit the people around you in your environment and the things around you in your environment. What do you have around you in your environment? Are your goals up on a board? Do you have visualizations? Are you reading things that you can see visually in your life? Are you listening to the right things? These are all part of your environment, but the most important thing are the people that are inside that environment that are around you. And so that's how you eliminate. Now, adding people to your life, the best way to do that is to seek out, go to places where they are. So, I mean, where do they have lunch? Where do they have coffee? Where do they work out? Where do they worship? Go to the places where these people that you think could help you to become good friends, and just become a part of that environment. And the more you're in the environment, you'll end up meeting people. It's a strategy, it's work to add people to your life. I could tell you that I work very hard at this. I also believe in the law of reciprocity. You don't just ask somebody to be your friend. You find a way that you can contribute. You want to become a friend of mine, say, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Just offer whatever you have. You say, well, I don't have anything to offer people. You'd be surprised. Could you offer me your belief in me? Could you offer me your truth? Could you offer me your prayers? Could you offer me your support? These are real gifts you give people. Not all of them need to be knowledge and breakthroughs and an example and a track record. You'd be surprised, someone like myself, what just your belief means to me, your support means to me. And I'm the type of person, the people you want in your life, when I feel like you've given me something, I feel obligated to pay you back even more. And so the way you add people to your life is with the law of reciprocity. Put yourself in environments where they are, and begin to offer your belief, your kindness, your support, your love. Maybe it is your collaborations, maybe it is your connections, maybe it is a talent or skill you have, but it doesn't have to be those things. When I was a young person, I ended up adding people to my life that were much more successful than me, much more well-known than me. But you know what? As I got to know them, I think they sensed this person truly believes in me. They truly care about me. This is a real friend. You have those people in your life as well, where they don't necessarily have all the experience to support you, but they really believe in you. They really love you. And then the last thing I want to ask you today is, because for you to add these people to your life, What I just said is the most important thing. How do you show up in people's lives? How do you show up in people's lives? Right now, are you that person that's an energy giver or drainer? Are you a future frame of reference or the past? Do you help your friends set high standards or the acceptable standards they already have? Right? Are you someone who deeply believes in people and they know it? Or you just kind of accept them as they are? These are the things you begin to ask yourself. How are you showing up in other people's lives? Because that'll have an awful lot to do with who shows up in your life. How do you show up in other people's lives? And if you begin to evaluate these things, your environment slowly but surely will begin to support your mental game, will be supported by your environmental game. And why is that so important? Because I want to remind you about something. You were born to do something great with your life. You were put here to do something special all your life. Since you were a little boy or a little girl, there was some point in your life where you knew you were supposed to do something great, that you were put here for a reason, that you've got a calling, that you've got a home in your life you're eventually going to find where you're living the real, true, authentic version of you, your best version. You know you're supposed to do something great with your life. And right now, if you're listening to this or you're watching this, maybe you're not quite there yet. And maybe it's your thinking. Maybe it's some tactics and strategies and habits, which I cover all the time on this show. Maybe it's all the mental stuff, but more than likely it's the environmental stuff. It's the standards. It's the people around you that believe in you. It's not just having people that accept you, because you want to do something so great with your life. I have this theory that many of you have heard, that when I die someday, I want the Lord to say, well done, good and faithful servant. But I have this hallucination, as many of you know, that when I die, the Lord's going to do that, and He's going to turn around and say, Eddie, I want you to meet the man I made you to be. When I made you in my image and likeness, this is the destiny version of you. This is the man you were born to be. And that guy's going to be standing there, and I want to meet him and go, I've been chasing you all my life, man. And he's going to say, boy, you caught me. You did it. I'm proud of you. You had all the memories, all the moments, all the contribution, all the feelings, all the difference, all of it in your life. You made it all happen. You became the man you were born to be. We're identical twins. To me, that's heaven when I pass away. Heaven is I meet the man I was born to be and we're identical twins. Hell would be that you'd meet that person and you're total strangers. You're total strangers. That woman someday when you die and you meet the woman you could have been, and you're total strangers. You went down different paths, different roads, different decisions your entire life, and you never become that woman. You never become that man. To me, that's hell. So if it's that important to you, that you've always known, and maybe it got buried as you got older. Maybe life sort of kicked us around a little bit to where not everyone in our life believed it. And then maybe our parents, our friends, our school teachers, just life started to happen and we forget who we are. We forget who we are. And you know why you forget who you are? Because of the people that have been in your damn life. Because they haven't supported that great version of you. When you were really little, you knew it, you felt it because you were closer to God at that time. And the more and more people were added to your life, they began to treat you in such a way that they didn't expect those things of you. And maybe you've started to accept that. So if it's people that created these limiting beliefs, created this anxiety, created this fear, created this thing about us where we forget our greatness, if it's people who did this to us, it's people who are going to help us get out of it. If it's the environment that stole this joy, stole this belief, stole this confidence from us, stole this sense of purpose from us and passion, it's the environment that'll give it back to us again. And we put the people in our lives that we deserve to have, not just that have always been there.